Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome back to another episode of Saturday Horror Movie Reviews. Today, I am joined by Albert from Blood Brews, and which is super exciting. First time on the channel. And we are going to be talking the 1981 classic film, An American Werewolf in London. So, I mean, this movie being older, the ratings are still really high for it. So right now it has a 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb, 55% on Metacritic, a 91% on Google. And then the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 85%. Two American college students on a walking tour of Britain are attacked by a werewolf that none of the locals will admit exist. That's the shortest synopsis I could find. That didn't give too much away. So yeah, Albert, tell us a little bit about Blood Brews and what you do over at your channel.
Basically, it's just a YouTube channel that me and a coworker started. My idea was just, have you seen Drunk History?
Yeah.
So I love that show. There's something about it, but it was like, I want to talk about something that I love, instead of history, it would be horror movies. And so that type of idea, we don't take it as quite as far as to get like throwing up on camera and stuff, but there's sometimes when I have such a hard time editing just because of the fact that we're being so ridiculous. And there's been times where he's passed out or like, but yeah, it's never to the point where we're like yakking on camera or anything. Yeah. So, but that was kind of the general idea. And then just remembering some of the horror hosts from back in the day that were on like public access channels that you'd like see, that kind of stuff that was always cool to me. So that's kind of what spurred the channel. And what we do is we just pretty much do movie reviews and we drink beer and rate beers, delicious beers. But yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you do unboxings too. Like I know you get.
Yes, I do a lot of unboxings as well. Yeah. Bambox in particular.
Yes. Yeah, those are funny because I feel like I have like a hate relationship with Bambox. And so I think one of the first videos I watched that you weren't happy about some stuff. And I was like, this is literally me when I get these stupid boxes and I'm pissed about like something that's messed up or missing or isn't great or cool. So that's funny.
I feel like that's half the fun of it, though, is like giving me a reason to complain. But then every once in a while you get cool stuff. Like I got this American Werewolf in London shirt out of a box, but I don't think it was Bambox though.
That is a cool shirt. Yeah.
So, I mean, I figured it was fitting.
Yeah. The only werewolf shirts I own are the original Wolfman. Those are the only werewolf shirts. So I went Cthulhu. That is cool.
The reason I chose like a werewolf film was because I'd seen how passionate you were talking about other werewolf films in the past.
I do love werewolf films.
So I was like, all right, well, that's which route we should go.
Yeah. And it was a toss up between this and Howling. And so, I do really love werewolf films. I don't actually get to talk about them very much. Usually when I have guests for the reviews, I let them pick the movie. I usually just say, hey, whatever movie, as long as I haven't already done it, I'm happy to talk about it. And then I've only gotten to talk about werewolves like a couple of times. I did like a top list one time where I picked like 2. The other person picked 2 and then we agreed on like 1. But yeah, I know a lot about werewolves and I've seen so many of the films. So I was excited to talk about this one, especially this one, because this one's like a classic. Like when I did a top 5 werewolf one, I didn't actually put this in my top 5. And I got so many comments that were like, what? No, An American Werewolf in London? Like people were mad.
So many people hold this in such high regard and to me, it's based around one scene is why they hold it that high. So, but again, no spoilers yet. So I'm not yet. We won't talk about
it. Yeah, that's true. And I think, and people are weird about cult classic films anyway. It's not just this one. If it's the same thing with like posting that The Exorcist isn't like the best exorcism film. And people are like, the nerve, So anyway, it is what it is. Yeah, so if you had to rate this out of 10, what would you give it?
That's tough because my rating says I'm super picky, and I
Yeah.
want to say it's probably going to be an 8.5.
Yeah, 8.5. That's still really good.
But it's mainly at 8.5 because of the fact that I would have liked to have seen, when you see a werewolf movie, I want to see like the carnage. I want to see the action. I want to see like what's
Yeah,
happening, and I feel like it was a lot of, and I know that it was on purpose. There's so many things where John Landis is talking about how they wanted just little clips of the werewolf, not like full on,
right,
except for that one scene, obviously. But
right.
so for me, it was just like I wanted to see more of the werewolf doing the stuff instead of the quick flashes and it just being over and done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the werewolf is like less than 30% of the movie. Like it's such a small percentage, because it spends a lot of time building up the dream sequences and a lot of the other things that are our storyline, our character arcs, I guess, like those kind of things, relationship building. Which, I mean, going back to like older werewolf movies, the original Wolfman is very similar in that regard, but it was in such a different time that it's kind of like, it is a little like less werewolfy than some other movies. That's definitely true. Yeah, so I'm pretty close to that. I would give this like an 8. I think for pretty similar reasons. My favorite thing about any monster film is the monster, and I want to see more of what that looks like, what that means for the people and the things that they come in contact with. Like that's what I'm watching those movies for. It's like watching a shark movie that's like this background story about people getting over trauma. It's like I just want to see a shark eating people. Like I don't need all that other shit.
Exactly. Give me the action.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so yeah, just some quick unspoiled thoughts, things that you liked or didn't like that don't get too much away.
I really liked the fact that this film was able to squeeze what it did into an hour and 38 minutes. It
Yeah,
was a horror movie, it was a comedy movie, it
yeah,
was a love story,
yeah,
and it was a friendship story about those two guys going on this like adventure together. And it
yeah,
just, that intro had such a cool like feeling to it.
I
Like when
agree.
you first come in and they're like getting off the truck,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think its strengths, outside of some of the practical effects that were just like have aged so well because they're practical effects. Because I rewatched it to get ready for this conversation because I haven't seen it in a while. And I mean, like practical always ages better. And obviously with the timeline, we're not talking like mad CGI skills back then anyway. But yeah, and then the friendship part, I love that the friendship part is like not just at the beginning. It comes in and out of the story as we move, into the later parts of the film. And I agree, they definitely made good use of the time and they got a lot in. There's not really, even though there's not a lot of like werewolf parts specifically, it didn't feel like there were really any lulls either. Like everything that occupied time did so effectively. So yeah, I totally agree with that too.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
didn't really have any like, I
Yeah.
never really thought about that. It keeps a really good pace throughout the film for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It has slower parts, but they don't necessarily feel slow. They just feel necessary because then right after that, it's very much a slow down, speed up so consistently that you're engaged like the whole time. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It has to build that caring, that attachment. I want to care
Yes.
about this lady, and this guy.
Yep. Yeah.
Again,
No.
not trying to put spoilers in. I was almost about to go down. I was like, oh wait, reel it in.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, yeah, I really liked it a lot. And I really liked some of the like small town secrecy stuff too. I like, or, like, I guess you consider it like a small town, but I liked all of that stuff. So yeah, no, I totally agree. I don't think there's like, this isn't one that I feel like you could say a lot about without giving too much of the story away anyway. But I just wanted some quick thoughts for anybody who hasn't seen this movie. go watch it. You can stream it on Plex with ads. Otherwise, you have to rent it unless you have like the super expensive like subscriptions on like I think it's Hulu and Amazon. But otherwise, you can watch it for free with ads on Plex. Because we're gonna jump into spoilers now and just talk about whatever we want.
I second that. If you haven't seen this movie, definitely go see it. It's in my top 3 werewolf films. I mean,
yeah,
it's a good film.
Yeah, and it has aged really, really well for it to have come out in 81.
Agreed.
So definitely check it out. Yeah. All right, yeah. So we can jump into spoilers. So, I assume you've seen the original Wolfman?
Yes.
So this is to me like a modern version of that. Instead of brothers, you've got best friends. You still have the love story. They even reference, that, Lon Chaney turns into and he's like telling her, all this stuff from the movie. And he's talking about only someone that loves me can kill me, which is from, I really loved the parallels between the two movies. I thought that was really well done.
I actually didn't even realize that till you just said that. I honestly it wasn't something that really stood out for me. It was
okay.
Again, I think because of the pacing, I wasn't really me, I was kind of more engulfed in the actual this movie, but now that you're saying it, I can see what you mean.
Yeah. And I liked that. I thought, it wasn't exactly like it. It definitely had its own things, but I just liked that it was comfortable showing where it may have gotten some inspiration from, because it's kind of a hard line to walk when you're doing something that you're getting inspiration from that's like a this huge thing that is obviously like really big for the subgenre. And so but you're paying like love and respect to it while still kind of creating your own thing, because it's still a really unique film away from that. It's not obviously the exact same story, but I liked the adding in of the love story and the connection there. And like I said, the friendships being instead of the brothers. Cause our first scene when we see Lon Chaney come in is when he goes to his brother's funeral, and it's like this big emotional scene. And then right away, when we meet Jack and David, like Jack dies within the first like 15 minutes of the movie. Which is crazy to think about, talking about what they get in the time frame, because I was really connected to both of them as friends, even in that short amount of time. Like I was like, when he, obviously getting attacked, this is a rewatch for me, but I still felt really like saddened by this moment of like him being attacked and knowing that he wasn't going to make it.
For sure. No, them just talking, walking on that path through the moors, and you're just like them just shooting the shit about normal stuff. It really makes you feel like, oh, that could be me and someone else. So it like, I get that.
Yeah, their friendship was very realistic. And even their conversations after he's dead were still very like realistic conversations, aside from obviously talking about being a werewolf, but just like their interaction, their banter, like the way they interacted in general felt really real and pretty genuine.
For me, it felt like he was hazing him afterwards. And that's what that would like crack me up, when Jack would like fuck with David a little bit, like pick on him almost. And it was just like, if they would have done a little bit more of that, I would have definitely loved that.
Yeah, I agree. Like when he shows up at, oh my God, I totally blanked on the girl's name. The nurse.
Yeah. At her apartment though.
Yeah. When they're at her. Yeah. And he like opens the door. I was just like, it's just because it takes you back to their original like conversations and how they were in the beginning. And it's like this horrible thing happened and there's a lot going on, but like there's still those like comedic moments. It's like really, really well balanced for it to be the type of film that it is, I thought.
Oh, for sure. And it was right after they had got done making love for the first time.
Oh,
so it's awkward that his best friend shows up like that in that apartment at that time. It's like so awkward. Like, what are you doing here, dude? So true. I felt that on a whole nother level. I get it.
Yeah, that's like, true. Why? I didn't even really think about that point.
Why are you here right now? Anyways.
I like too that he looks, he's decaying as we see him. So like, the first time we see him in the hospital, he looks like he did the night that he was attacked. And then the next time we see him, he's just slowly going through rigor mortis, like all of these things. Yeah, like all
It's
of the stuff that you're
the
seeing.
flap that always gets me, that it like
Yeah.
draws your attention to it on his neck, and you're just like, oh my gosh, they did such a good job with those practical effects. It was ridiculous.
They really, really, really did. And that's like the practical effects are definitely, even though obviously there's violence and there's gore, but there's not like an overabundance of it. But the scenes where there is gore and body horror, like it hits. Like it's so well done and methodical as far as like how it looks, the way that it, like you said, draws your attention to it. Ugh, like it's so effective and it looks so realistic. Like, ugh. Yeah.
So what was kind of strange to me
Yeah.
was the fact that he's not really there, but he is there, but he's a ghost, but he's a zombie. So is it like a zombie ghost, but he can talk like a normal person? So that's what kind of threw me off, but I also liked that about it, that it was different from it, like kind of meshes several things together and created its own cool thing. And I really
Yeah.
feel like the film would have been completely different had
I
Jack
agree.
not been showing up throughout the film like that. I feel like it would have made it a lot
Yeah.
more drawn out and boring. He really like kind of spiced it up. He was like the hype man for the movie.
I agree. Yeah. And it was also a really good way to get in information without like info dumping, which is something that like works in slashers, but does not work. And like for me anyway, in like any other subgenre, I hate where you don't know shit. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, here, let me just give you all this information. This was a great way to start those conversations about what's going to happen next without having him not even think about it and then all of a sudden change, or having to rely on some other means to like get that information in. That was like a really smart move to use that character for that stuff too. And I think like, so I really like the concept of him kind of like haunting him. And then later when we're in when he goes in the movie theater, there's like the other people that he just killed. And they're like, same thing, zombie ghosts, they can talk, but it's like a very more like, I guess like raw way to have something that you did haunt you, because you have to see these people the way you left them and to not even remember it. And then you're seeing your best friend that you do remember. Like that was, yeah, I thought that was really smart. I loved all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a really good job with that.
Yeah. No, I agree. Um, I think so, when I got towards thinking about like the ending, because it does take so long to like, we spend so much time focused on like the story part and like getting to know the characters and like all these other things. The end is actually really abrupt. Like I forgot how kind of like abrupt the ending is until like I
Yeah.
rewatched it. I didn't remember it being that like
Oh no,
done.
that's that credit music pops on so fast. You're like, wait, what? Like, wait a second. Like, we didn't even go through the feelings yet. Like, it's just done. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
It was chop. No, I
Yeah.
thought that too, because I rewatched it yesterday and I was thinking the same thing, like right at the very end. And again, I didn't really want to know if you wanted to give the ending away or not, but yeah, so that ending part, it just kind of
Yeah.
happens, and then it's just you see her face, and then it's just over,
Over.
and you're just like left with kind of like, okay, well, uh, where are we at now? What?
Yeah. It takes
So
a second. Yeah. Like the words were scrolling up and I was just kind of like, "Oh yeah, I guess I sort of do
yeah,
remember it ending like that."
I guess
I
it's
mean,
over.
but it works. Yeah.
Oh no,
I think
it so does. It's like
yeah.
that. It's like the shock of the scene too. It's just like it kind of hits you like, whoa. But yeah,
Yep. You get the final shot, then the phase to her, and then it's literally just like in some movies, I do know quite a few horror movies that do that, like abrupt ending, and it does not always work. Like a lot of times, it actually leaves me feeling like as a viewer pretty frustrated because I'm like, what the like I feel like when you're investing all this time and energy into these characters in the story, and you're like want to see how it ends, obviously, and then you're like it's just like a roll credits. It's kind of like a too startling, but this I think this was done intentional because of all the relationship building and the character building and getting people used to these characters and their relationship and all of these things, that it's just like here's this like this ending, and then that's all you get, and now you're left to feel however you feel. And I think it's actually really, really smart filmmaking.
No, it definitely leaves you like a what just happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And I forgot, so I watched the what was it called? The Shudder's like 101 most scariest moments or whatever.
I've seen parts of that.
Okay, so out of the 101, like the one of the scenes from this movie makes that list. And I remember like it had been so long since I had seen it that I had kind of forgotten about the dream within a dream. And so like when I saw when I saw the scene on the Shutter thing, and it's when the wolves come to and they like kill his family and they torch his house and like slit his throat, and like then he wakes up and there's like all these things that happen. I had completely forgotten about that scene because it's so over the top. Like it just, I don't know, like I just forgot. But I think it's probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie because it really like kind of that whole like dream within a dream, or you think something's real, but it's not. Like I feel like that's kind of like an origin of where that came from because it's used all the time.
No, that was an awesome because he wakes up and then the nurse is there, and then she goes to open the window and then she gets attacked. Like, and then he wakes up again. He's like, "What the fuck?" Like,
he says,
and
"Oh
so
shit!"
that was probably got the best laugh out of me throughout the whole movie. Was that part when he's just like, "What the fuck just happened?" Like he didn't say that. I can't remember the exact verbiage, but so yeah. But he gave that type of attitude. It was just for me. I was like, "Oh my god, that's hilarious." So
yeah.
To add to that, I guess the werewolf that slashed David's throat in that scene was actually Rick Baker.
Was it?
Yeah, dressed up.
I didn't know that.
Unless the research I did was wrong. I was trying to find stuff that wasn't like super. So maybe fact check me on that one. But yeah, I heard that's what I read in a couple of different places that was actually Rick Baker as the Nazi werewolf.
The one that holds him specifically. That like, I didn't know that.
I thought that was kind of cool though, because he's
really cool.
He's like the guy behind all the special effects. So why would he even? But it's cool that he put himself in there. And then also John Landis was one of the people that got hit by a car in the end scene where like it's going crazy through London. He gets knocked through a window.
Oh, he's the one that gets knocked out the window or comes out the window
through a window. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that either. That scene's nuts. That's another really good one because there's a lot that happens. It goes from like again, slow kind of build up in the story, and then it's like we're in the theater, we're getting all this guilt, all this like all these emotions, and then he's like changing and he's killing people in the theater, and then we go outside and it's just like complete and utter chaos, but it's like so well orchestrated that it just is so believable. You're just like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like you don't even question like how crazy it is. It's just like, yeah, it makes sense. I get it.
Well, I just think of it like how it would be if a rabid dog was like running through a mall or something. Like that's how people would be. They'd be like trying to get away from it, and like people would just be swerving. But I love the camera angles where they're showing the front of the werewolf walking, and then you see people like jetting in every direction, like around them.
Yep. Yeah. And that car, there's one scene where like one of the people that ends up, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if it's like, I don't think it's the person that goes out the front of the car, but I think there's somebody ends up on the ground and they get like ran over. I was like, Jesus Christ. I didn't remember that either. So I was like, that part was like it just was so, it almost didn't even really show very much of it, but I feel like I saw what happened, like it was it's traumatizing. Like that one moment. Oh yeah, but it was good. It was really well done. But all of that chaos was just like really, really well done. I like scenes like that. And the camera angles, to add to what you said, are another like huge strength in this film. That I guess like subway scene is so beautifully shot. That's like one of my favorite, like as far as like cinematography goes, like it's so well shot. So well done.
Well, also just that scene for me specifically made me feel stressed out. You know what I mean? Because you just see the guy running with his briefcase, dropping shit all over the place. And he's just like I guess maybe the echo of the running, down the hallways along, it just feels so like stressful, and like you have
Yeah.
nowhere to go. You're in this big tube with this big monster, and you don't really have anywhere to go.
Yeah, completely alone, like, just, like and then when he gets to that part where it does, like, the splits, where he's, like, making, like he doesn't hesitate for long, but he hesitates for a second, he's like, "Hey, which way do I go?" And then he picks a way, like, that gave me anxiety too. I was like, like, I don't know, I mean, obviously, I don't know what that subway station's like, but I feel like that's, like,
Yeah.
scary, like, I have to pick a way that's gonna lead to my survival. Which way do I go? And I've gotta make this decision, like, right now. It's very stressful, and then to not really show us, all you hear is the noises, the growling and the carrying on. And then like I almost when he's on this thing was it escalator, when we finally get to see the wolf, it was like I didn't know where to look. I felt panicked. I was like, okay, where is it going to be? Where is it going to be? And I'm sure that's obviously what someone would feel in that real situation, because you've been running. You don't know exactly where it is, and then you turn and you're like, oh, and then you see the movement, and just as it comes on camera, you're like, oh my god, like that was so well done, so well done. Yeah.
I think they set it up to make it feel like something's going to happen fast, but then it didn't happen
Yeah.
fast at all. It happened like at a
No.
slow pace, and you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, fuck, okay, I get it. So yeah,
Yeah, it does. And then it's like you get all of that yeah, that moment was built up so well. And I felt a lot of that tension, even being that I've already seen this movie. I've seen it a few times. Probably not as much as I've seen some other werewolf films, but I've seen it a lot. It just happened in a long time. And I still felt like my heart was like in my throat. Like I was the one there. Like it was me trying to figure out what to do. And that's just kind of a testament to like how well that scene is shot, how well it was built up is really good.
agreed.
What's your favorite scene from this movie? Do you have a favorite?
Gosh, it's tough because part of me wants to go to the scene where they're like walking across the moors together, and it's like that friendship of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to take like the popular answer with this and go with the transformation, because
Transformation. Yep.
I mean that's the first time you see such a well lit, take their time with showing you like the full
Yep.
body.
Whole body.
I mean Rick Baker just did amazing with that scene, and
Yep.
it didn't feel like they rushed it at all. It felt like
Yep.
they went through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like they knew if we're going to do this, it's got to be done right. And we're going to have to make it work across the board. Yeah. And this is one that like, even now, given all the werewolf versions of things that we've seen, that's still one of the best, if not the best, werewolf transformation ever. As far as it's all practical. It takes its time. It's unsettling. It feels painful as a viewer. You're invested in those feelings as well. And then it just the way it all comes together and the look of what it is when it's all finished is just, yeah, I mean it's fantastic from start to finish. And like you said, that it takes its time. It's not a quick, and it's not just flashes. I mean, you literally see like the hands, the feet, the face, the stretching of the torso, like you see everything.
His
And that's
back.
not a lot of times we don't get to see all of that.
Agreed. But that's also why I'm like angry with this whole situation. It's because I'm like, come on, it's been 40 plus years. Why haven't we topped this? Like, why haven't, like, with all why hasn't someone learned from him how to do it and made it better? Combine it with CGI, see what you can come up with, because,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think
sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Good.
There's even an interview with Rick Baker where he's talking about how he would love to get paid to do this again, because he would love to
Yeah.
take advantage of the CGI and the practical effects and mesh them together. And he says he's like, I could blow everyone's minds. I'm like, that's all I want. That's all
I
I
just
want out
knew
of a
that.
movie right now. Exactly. I'm a huge werewolf fan, so like when he's talking like that, I'm like, that's exactly what I would pay money for. So make that happen.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem, this is just my professional opinion. I think part of the problem is people are very lazy with werewolves. Like they think that werewolves have to be connected to vampires, or werewolves have to be this like, and there's a ton of werewolf lore that is never utilized, that people never talk about, they never change, they never add their own things. Like it's one of those things where it's like they think that it being a werewolf is supposed to be enough, and it's not. There's things you can change and add and manipulate and do, better on than things that have been before. I think the closest thing as far as like a transformation of a wolf that I've been impressed with as a werewolf fan is, did you ever watch the show Hemlock Grove?
I didn't watch the show, but when I
Okay.
heard there was werewolves in it, I looked it up and I looked up the different transformations. And usually,
Yeah.
if we're getting into a show like that, or
Yeah.
like what was that other show, Supernatural, or even watching the Twilight movies, I
Uh-huh.
had to see what the werewolf looked like prior,
First.
because when they do that, like them just looking like a regular wolf and it's just a CGI wolf,
I
for
understand.
me, it automatically is like, I'm sorry guys, like I
It's
need you to
just
put
not
up,
you want like a monster werewolf.
make it scary. That's not
Yeah.
a werewolf, that's a
I
wolf,
prefer monster werewolves too. Well,
right?
I think the concept of the change is really what I really liked about it, because it is an eating its way out sort
Yes.
of thing. And I really do conceptually, that's a really solid idea. I agree. I would like to see that utilized maybe with like a monster werewolf, because I also like the big giant crazy looking ones that, regular wolves. I'm not saying if I was like out in the woods, which I wouldn't be, but if I was, like, I'm not saying if I saw a wolf, I wouldn't be scared. I would be. But from a horror sense, they do need to
Yeah.
kind of be like monsters, because that's werewolves are monster movies. Like that's what their whole thing is supposed to be. But that's been the closest like concept wise thing that's ever like come close to like wowing me, because I did really like the idea of literally shedding and eating away at the humanity, because we get that psychologically in a ton of horror films, but I mean ton of werewolf films, but to see it was really kind of a neat concept. But yeah, I don't really prefer the regular
Was
wolf looking ones either.
was that CGI or was that practical effects or was it both? Because
I
I
think
don't
it's both.
oh, okay.
I think.
I'm gonna have to rewatch at least that scene and see, just because I
Yeah.
can't remember. Like I know I've seen it, like, but on
Mhm.
like a YouTube where it just separated
Sure.
it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's both. I might be wrong, but I felt like there were some things about it that looked very real, like too real to be CGI. But I might be wrong. I think it's a mix of both though. But I liked it. I thought it was, you don't get to see that transformation very many times. Normally it's like what most things do, where they show you bits and pieces at once, and then like you never see it again. It's either human or wolf like after that.
Exactly.
But I really liked the concept, because I mean, yeah, a lot of times it's like it's over the top CGI. Like, I don't actually have a problem with CGI. I'm not like somebody that's like, oh, it's CGI, I hate it. I just think that there's so much more that can be done not using just CGI when it comes to monster effects. It's always way more impressive to me.
Agreed. I mean, that's one of my issues with the Van Helsing movie. I really love that movie. I love that movie. It's
I
just got
really
a
love that one
it's so,
too.
and even though like you can see that heavy outline around like the werewolves and like the vampires, like when they're flying around and stuff, like
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, just act like it's not happening, just keep watching, because
Just
I love
ignore it.
that movie so much though. So I get it, and it's this constant battle in your head, like I want to be able to let go, like I want to believe this shit's happening, like the scene from Fright Night, the
Yes.
where evil Ed gets stabbed through the chest as a wolf and then he starts changing back into a human.
So
That
good.
scene, for me, I was like, okay, I believe that. I believe that that's
Yeah.
happening right now in front of me. I'm
Yeah.
like, holy shit. Like that looks
Yeah.
like if that was to be real, I believe it. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking for in these types of movies. Like I want to escape into that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I think like that's one of the things that works so best when like the best when they utilize practicals because that stuff does look very real and it gets to you in ways that like the over the top CGI stuff is so blatantly fake and like it's hard to really get into it as far as like you said like escaping and like it's like this is really happening. And I really loved the Van Helsing movie too and I really loved all of the underworld not all of let me back up. I loved 3 of the underworld movies and one of my favorite ones was the third one, The Rise of the Lycans. I think is such a strong movie. I loved it so much. But I mean, it's the same thing. It's a shit ton of CGI. But I don't know. I try to just pretend like it's not either, but it is harder when it's like over the
I
top like
I
that.
loved Rise of the Lycans. I thought that
Yes.
was a really good one, and I liked most of those except for the last couple ones got a little ridiculous.
Yeah, the
Uh,
last 2 were a little much. Yeah.
but then there's those certain scenes from that movie, those movies that like really stick with you, like the first one, the first Underworld,
Yeah.
where that werewolf guy is like forcing the bullets to come out of his
Out
body, and then the music's coming on,
the
and
rock
you're just
music.
like, that one's like burned into my brain. Like when I think of
Yep.
just werewolf stuff in movies,
Yeah.
like that's one of those scenes that just like that was a cool scene.
Yeah, no, I like a lot of scenes from the Underworld movies, but I think that one is a big one for me. But I also really liked the one in I always say it wrong. Is it Revolution or Evolution? The second one with the brothers,
Oh gosh, I
Marcus
can't.
and
Oh, you mean
William.
one's like a vampire and one's a werewolf?
Yeah, I think it's Revolution or Evolution. It's one or the other. Maybe Evolution. I don't know. Either way, I really liked the white wolf in that one. I thought he was wicked because he stays like that. He couldn't go back, and when he comes there, he's in that like that thing, and then when he breaks them out, and he's like, you don't see anything for a second, and then he just like lurches out. I was like, Jesus Christ, I loved that so much. I ate that up. I was like, I need more of this. That was
No,
so
there
good.
was whenever they're doing like an in a tunnel type of thing like that and they're coming out, that was always good. I
Yeah,
like that
I agree.
that feeling, especially the dark, because I feel like that movie
Mhm.
in particular like utilizes the darkness to like add the fear into it so
Yes.
much. And when movies do
Yes.
stuff like that, it just for me again, like it just makes it creepier because like your imagination starts to build like in the shadows.
Yep.
And
Yep.
but again, that's why American Werewolf in London, they did it all like so well lit
Yeah.
in that one transformation that you're just like, oh my gosh, like
It's risky. Because
it
then
very
when you
risky
put
but
that much
very good.
out,
Yeah,
yeah, because when you put that much out, like you're asking for like people to tear it apart, basically, because you can see so much and you see it for so long. And it's not quick. It's not like, glimpses of hair here. And then it's like where there's obviously been time to change the makeup or obviously been time to change the prosthetic or whatever. And that's yeah, it's a really risky thing to do. And I think it paid off because, like you said, this is like that's the scene. When people talk about this movie, that's what they want to talk about is the transformation because it was like a game changer. And like you said, has put this like thing out there. No one has been able to do better or even close to that since that. And this was 81. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I think that the one in The Howling was decent. I don't want to get
I
too
do
much
like the
into
one in
that
that.
movie, but yeah,
Yeah.
just in case we do this again, I would
Yeah.
like to do The Howling and then talk about
Yeah.
why they kind of like in my brain clash a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Supposedly, Rick Baker was supposed to work on that. Anyways, okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're cool. And then I was gonna ask, like, so speaking about werewolf movies in general, have you seen Howling Village? Have you seen that one?
Ooh, I've watched most of the Howling movies, um, but if it's been recent, like within the last several years, probably not. Like kind of stopped.
So,
What was the one where it almost went Western, and then
oh, I know what you're talking about.
it was looked like such a B movie that I think it was even under a B movie, and I was just like, that's why I
Yeah,
was like, I can't do this. The last one I liked was the one in the castle, but
that
again,
was a good one.
not
I liked the one in the
not
castle.
enough werewolf, and it was too much over the top, like who done it feeling like, so it was like more of a mystery, and I'm like, come on.
Mystery instead of like a yeah. So Howling Village is not related to Howling.
Oh, just
It's
kidding.
a it's a it's a it is a foreign werewolf movie. It is oh, I can't remember if it's Japanese or not. But anyway, but it is a really, really, really cool take on werewolves. And so it actually has become like one of my favorite werewolf movies. It is a little lengthy. It's not like an hour and a half. It's definitely over 2 hours, I think, like a little bit over 2 hours. But if you are someone who wants to kind of like get invested in like story again, kind of like we did with An American Werewolf in London. This has a lot of story, a lot of lore, and the werewolf concept is very unique. I've not seen anything like this. And it does take a while to get to the werewolf parts, I'm not gonna lie to you, but the payoff for me was very high. I really, really loved it. It came out in like I don't know, like 2020 or 2021. I can't remember, but it's relatively newer. But it's called Howling Village. And it's a really, really unique werewolf film. I really liked it.
Okay, but how did the werewolf look? I need to know. Like,
Completely.
score the werewolf, the way it looks when it's in
Okay,
full
so
werewolf mode.
it's not a normal wolf.
I mean,
It's a
that makes me
monster.
okay. Good.
I would say, I don't know. Like, okay, so if I had to give it like a rating out of like 10, I would probably give it like a 7 because it's really unique. It's very different from anything else that I've ever seen as far as, werewolves go. I really liked it. So,
Okay.
if you ever feel like checking it out, you can look
No,
into it.
I mean, I'm shocked I haven't heard of that, to be honest.
Yeah.
So,
It's a lot of people didn't. I know I never hear people talk about how did I know about it? Oh, Dread Central posted about it randomly, and the picture they just so happened to show looked intriguing. And I thought originally, I thought it was a found footage movie, which is, my favorite subgenre. So I was like, oh, I'm in. And it has found footage elements, but it's not a found footage film. It's just, it's most of it shot in third person, but it's so that was why I went to see it originally or watched it because I thought it was going to be found footage, but it ended up being like a monster movie, and it was so good. I really loved it. So
I'm definitely going to check that out. That sounds
at least look it up, see if you think it's worth your time.
for sure. I'll watch a trailer on it.
Yeah, do it. I don't know how much and I don't think the trailer's going to give too much away either, which will be good. And then the other one I was going to ask you if you'd seen is The Cursed that came out last year in March.
I did see The Cursed, and I did really like it. But again, I was left wanting more.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But there was some scenes in that I was like, whoa, that was awesome. Like that when something was inside of the body or something. I can't remember now because it's been.
Yeah.
But yeah. There's some scenes in there that I was like, how did they even?
Yeah, so The Cursed made my top 10 for 2022. Probably mostly because I love werewolf movies, but it was, I thought it was really unique too. I thought there's a lot of things in it that I hadn't seen before, even though a lot of it was very Wolfman, like a lot of it, like the gypsy lore and the land thing. And like a lot of that stuff was very, very Wolfman, but there's a lot of really unique things with that one too. So I just wanted to ask if you'd seen that one because I like that one too. I thought it was really good. Oh, that's all I have, I think, on An American Werewolf in London.
Okay, so supposedly that howling sound that you hear from the werewolf throughout the film was actually an elephant like trumpet sound, like when how they make that sound.
Really?
They reversed that and then like somehow put it together with a little bit of a wolf sound, and then they played it backwards, and supposedly that's the sound that you kind of hear from that weird howl.
Cool.
It's not like a normal howl that you would hear like from a wolf.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of a cool little thing.
That's cool.
I'm very jealous of Joe Rogan because he has a full life-size freaking werewolf from that movie prop in his studio, right? And I'm just like, that's all I would want in life is to have that at my front door. You know what I mean? I don't even care if people or family get freaked out by it. I don't care. That's what I want at my front entrance.
God, that would
People
be
would
really
not want to break in.
Can you
I think if
imagine?
you
Oh my
broke in
God.
late at night and you saw that, you'd be like, and you had some growling sound next to it, that would be
Oh
awesome.
my God. Yes, you'd lose control of your bladder and go running for the hills. Yeah, that would be pretty great. Yeah, because like Spirit Halloween one year had an animatronic wolf that was like 6 feet tall. And one of the things that it did, it growled and it made noises, but it actually like walked forward, kind of like the white one from Underworld. But it literally like it had its paws up, kind of at it like whatever, and then it would just like lunge out in like these 2 giant steps. If I hadn't been a broke college kid, I probably would have spent like so much money on that stupid thing because it was like a $300-$400 thing. But it was massive. It looked very realistic. And so I was thinking the same thing. Like, it'd be so cool to have this just like hanging out in my house. Like, from people,
Yeah.
because I think it was like one of the ones that's like motion. So, like, when you walk in front of it, it like lunges forward. Like, that's fantastic. Like, that would be so fun.
Oh, that would be awesome. I love props. So, like, I would love to have just a bunch of werewolves just hanging out in the house. Just pass them, have them hold my coffee.
That would be pretty great. Yeah. No, we're having werewolves around would be a lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool.
Well,
That's our thoughts, I guess, on An American Werewolf in London. It is streaming on Plex. Otherwise, you do have to have the expensive subscriptions or have to rent it. Some people own this. I don't have this on physical.
I have it on physical. I have like most physical stuff.
Yeah.
But let me leave you with this. Like, I know that it's like contrary to what you would think. I would want to be able to go to like some remote town like that and sit in a little slaughtered lamb pub, have my beer and maybe some stew, even though that they didn't even have food.
They didn't have food there.
That's not right. Like, they had to make it a point. We don't have food
We
here.
don't have
Go
food
somewhere
here.
else. We get it. Okay. But I want my pub to have some food there and then just sit there and stare out at the moors and the fog and maybe a werewolf runs by. That's my dream. You know, why can't I want that? That's all.
It would be cool to go to a place like that for sure. I mean, because places like that are so creepy on their own anyway. Like, they just are. And then you've got
Exactly.
the people that like don't like outsiders and they always act like they're up to something. And they usually are, in these kind of situations. But that would be pretty cool. I would have a lot of anxiety going outside because I get in my own head about shit like that. I'd be like, oh, this is really cool. And then I'd go outside and be like, I'm just not coming outside anymore. Like, stay inside. Yeah, that would be really cool.
Thank you for the invite, though, for sure. This was fun.
Yep,
I enjoyed it.
this was fun. Yeah, welcome back anytime. Well, maybe we'll circle back around and do the Howling.
That'd be
Because
awesome.
I'm always down to talk werewolves, like always.
Cool.
Cool. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for this episode of Saturday Horror Movie Reviews. I'm going to put Albert's links for Blood and Brew in the description for this episode, so you can go follow them and subscribe to their YouTube channel. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great week coming up, and I will see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.